Hello, and welcome to Scott's Odyssey. It may come as no surprise to you, but Pennonites, as some call Pennsylvanians, love to celebrate things. Like all kinds of things. Christmas, Independence Day, Thanksgiving, Groundhog Day, Halloween, and Goose Day. Wait. Goose Day. Who wrote Goose Day in the script? See you in a minute. Welcome back. If you've watched my videos before, thank you for your patronage, and if you're new to Scott's Odyssey, welcome aboard. One of the things that comes with forming a new country carved out of a lot of different countries' riffraff who were usually kicked out of their native countries due to their beliefs, their practices, and their culture is a series of different and differently celebrated holidays. Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth state that takes a lot of these holidays very seriously. For example, you may not have any feelings about the prognosticator or prognosticators, but the fact that the Pennonites practically worship this wizard of the squirrel family, and yeah, he's the second largest rodent in North America, closely following the beaver, Punxsutawney Phil has given us a day to look forward to in the middle of the coldest and darkest season we suffer through each year. Of course, we're talking about Groundhog Day, where a groundhog comes out of his burrow, looks for his shadow, and if he sees it, he'll retreat back to his den for another 6 weeks. And if he doesn't see his shadow, then spring will arrive early. And this tradition was established back on February 2nd in 1887 at Gobbler's Knob in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. And by established, I mean that was the year it was official that there was a Groundhog Day. The practice itself is found referenced in diaries going back to as far as 1840. But we're not here to talk about Phil. He may or may not get his own video simply because I don't know if I could stand to go through with that celebration again. When I went out, it happened to be the historically coldest night and morning ever recorded in Punxsutawney, and it is a night of ice mares. We are here to talk about Goose Day, which is celebrated by the folks along the Juniata River Valley. And before we go any further, I would truly appreciate if all of you would take a deep breath and buckle up, because I'm about to take you through one hell of a history dumpster fire. Apologies in advance. As the unofficial origin of Goose Day, meaning I cannot find this anywhere but in the indeterminate, bordering on dubious hearsay spoken by the Juniata River Valley organization, whom directly represent the Mifflin and Juniata Counties Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau, Goose Day is a celebration that has been witnessed and participated in for more than 200 years and was established in this area by an early local settler where upon eating a goose on Goose Day, you will never want for money all the year round. This never want for money statement is also repeated by the same groups of peoples within their very own description of the celebration to also mean you are ensured wealth and prosperity for the coming year, which is curious because the last time I checked my ability to understand 4th grade English, never wanting for money is not the same as ensured wealth and prosperity. This alleged history is as follows. In 1786, a year before the Constitution was drafted and just 2 years after the United States became a sovereign nation, what? Try to keep up. Yes, 1776 was the birth of the United States because we declared independence from the Crown. 1784 is when the United States became a sovereign nation. 1787 is when we adopted the Constitution, and it wasn't until 1791 that we added the Bill of Rights, or the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, creating the United States as we mostly know it to be today. I'm truly sorry your teachers indoctrinated you with so much false information about the formation of the United States that you don't know those dates. But if you stick with me, I am sure you will learn who we once were can still be who we are today, and we can fix the tyranny that is befalling us at this time. Back to Goose Day. So this early settler, who went by the name of Andrew Pontius, although many of the locals pronounce it Pontius, Back in 1784, he moved himself and his family to a farm in Snyder County, which for location information purposes is to the northeast of both Mifflin County and Juniata County that celebrate Goose Day. His farm was doing really well, and he needed to hire someone to help with the farming. As was common during this time period, and according to the history told by this group, Andrew brought on a tenant farmer, which I have a mega issue with, because if his farm was doing well and being prosperous, why would he bring on a tenant farmer? You see, a tenant farmer was not a hired hand. It was someone who paid the owner of the farm in cash or produce for the ability to rent a piece of their land and raise their own livestock or grow their own crops on, so that they could afford to buy their own farm, which would not be helping the farmer with his crops or livestock. Regardless, it's said that Andrew was on his way to Lancaster to hire a fellow Dutchman. When he reached Harrisburg, he met an Englishman named Archie Hunter. Sorry to interrupt the story again, but again, we have history problems here, because in 1786, Harrisburg would still have been called Louisburg in honor of Louis XVI of France, or Harris Ferry by the locals. And it wouldn't be until 1791 the name Harrisburg would appear on a map, and nobody used that name commonly until much closer to 1860. Fortunately, in 1780, Lancaster was known as Lancaster and had lost its former name of Hickorytown back in 1742. Anyway, back to Archibald Hunter, the Englishman. Allegedly, Archibald told Andrew that he was with the British fleet in Philadelphia and had jumped ship while they were docked, working his way west ever since. I dug a little bit into this Archibald Hunter, and according to British history, Archibald Russell Spencer Hunter lived in Huntingdon, North Carolina, and worked in Virginia with his brothers for the Dunce Linen Company of Dun, Scotland. Archie was an agent for the company and took care of colonial accounts, shipping invoices for consignments, and the bills of exchange and protest. According to the story, this Archibald Hunter, who jumped ship from ships he was never recorded to be on, impressed Andrew Pontius. So Andrew offered Archibald the job, which is really interesting, because if he was a religious Pennsylvania Dutchman and he found a criminal and he liked them, so he hired. Anyway, in the contract drawn up by Andrew Pontius for whatever work Archibald did do, their accounts were to be settled each year on the day traditionally used for settling accounts, which was September 29th, and was something that Andrew wouldn't have known about because he was Dutch and Pennsylvania Dutch. Again, now I realize you may not consider September 29th a traditional day to settle an account, but there is some viability to this statement. You see, the Irish and the English had, for some long period of time, and by long we're talking all the way back to when whatever history was recorded has long been forgotten and the records long deteriorated it to a pile of dust, where all we have left is the verbal tradition. They used to practice a common manner in which one would pay up debts, pay rents, tithes, or taxes, maybe start school, hire your servants, things that were really important to do and keep track of on particular days that everyone would know when you didn't have a viable calendar in your pocket. So those days are called the equinoxes and the solstices, where the equinox represents the 2 days each year there's equal day and equal night, and the solstices, which are the 2 days per year where there is the longest day and the longest night. This practice in those days became known as quarter days. During the Middle Ages, sometime after 476 AD, these days shifted onto religious holidays. Now, the comments always explode because I say AD, so I'm going to let you know now, yes, I said AD for Anno Domini, which means the year of our Lord, just like I say BC for before Christ. I know a bunch of you want me to say CE for Common Era and BCE for before Common Era because you have your heads up your derriere and don't seem to realize that you claim you want religion out of your history, but it's all historically recorded with the pre-Christian Roman Empire, the birth of a man referred to as the Christ who really did exist and wasn't some spiritual figment of imagination, and was used to establish the calendar system you use today. And oddly enough, your common era is still based on the birth of the guy they called the Christ, and has no other event delineating it from any other event. So all you did was try to change the name so as not to have to say year of our Lord or before Christ, which is both obnoxious, sociopathic, and selfish. So I'll continue to say AD and BC and correct anyone I hear who says CE or BCE and treat them like the uneducated fools that they are. Instead of September 23rd being the quarter day, it was moved over to the closest Christian religious feast day on September 29th, or the Feast of St. Michaelmas. St. Michaelmas Day is also known as the Feast of All Angels, celebrating God's war and the defeat of evil found in the book of Revelation. Technically established by the Catholic Church of Rome sometime in the 5th century AD. Yes, that would be the 400s, specifically 487 AD, a day to honor St. Michael the Archangel on October 10th or 11th. As well as Gabriel and Raphael, was the day to be called Feast of St. Michael and All Archangels. Now, why is it October 10th or 11th? We'll get to that shortly. If it celebrates Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, why is it not called Archangels Day, instead Michael and All Angels? Well, that goes to world of secular secrets and knowing your religion. You see, Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel are only 3 of the 7 archangels. And at that time, nobody wanted to talk about the significance or deeds of Uriel, Sariel, Raguel, and Remiel. And even in this list, we don't have Eel listed. And I think there are a couple more in the Septuagint and apocryphal books, such as that of Enoch. But that's for a whole other story regarding angels and demons that my channel doesn't exactly cover, but maybe we should sometime. Let me know below in the comments if you want to hear about all the real angels in the books that are considered apocryphal. So anyway, October 10th or 11th marked St. Michaelmas and became the new representative quarter day for autumn. Because of its Christian overtones, it's also shifted in meaning of quarter day to represent a day where all debts, liens, and legal proceedings were to be due and closed in order to create a situation where your debts, liens, and legal issues won't follow you into your upcoming year or future. Truly a neat civic ideal where you have a chance to wipe your slate clean or work out all those problems that build up over the course of a year. Something we have long since forgotten in our culture and now walk around with a $250 debt turned $25,000 debt from a credit card when you were a youth adult. The tradition and association with Goose on Michaelmas Day goes back quite a ways in history, but not as far back as the origin of the tradition of Michaelmas Day. It was to take a well-fattened goose fed upon the stubble of the fields after the harvest. After dispatching the goose for the feast, a slice of breast would be taken and its color examined. It was said that the color of the slice of breast would be used to predict the weather for the upcoming winter. If it was dark, the winter would be severe. If it was light and dark, it would be a mix of severe and fair. And if it was light, the weather would consist of mostly shining sun. If you've ever eaten goose, you know that it always predicted a severe winter because goose meat is always a dark meat. The year is 1588, and Queen Elizabeth was sitting in her dining area eating goose on Michaelmas Day. No, not October 10th or 11th, but September 29th, being that in 1582 the calendar had changed from the Julius Caesar lunar calendar, called the Julian, to the Pope Gregory XIII, mathematically accurate to the number of days in a year, Gregorian calendar, which means that 10 days in October were just taken out in order to make up for the seasonal and date time shift caused by a lunar calendar. Which brings up an interesting side note that those 10 days accrued over the past Julian to Gregorian transitions would technically mean that the past 441 years times 10 Yeah, we're ahead of the Julian calendar by 4,441 days, or just a few days over 12 years in a month, which means if we were to subtract those 12 years in a month from 2023 going into 2024, we'd actually only be coming into 2012. And well, it makes me wonder if the Mayan long count of 13 Baktuns ending the world as we know it is actually accurate to the lunar Julian calendar. Things sure seem that way, don't you think? So Queen Liz is eating goose on September 29th during the feast of St. Michaelmas and is interrupted by someone bringing her news that her Royal Navy has defeated the Spanish Armada. In her delight of the news of the lucky Royal Navy victory, she decreed that goose should be eaten on the holiday of Michaelmas every year. Why lucky? Well, if you look at what was going on in that battle, the odds were heavily stacked against the Royal Navy, making it out alive from the fight against the Spanish Armada. And Britain would have had to pay a lot of money, a lot more money than they had expected to have to pay to Spain. And thus was born the goose bringing luck and money connection to the Feast of Michaelmas, and why it is held on the quarter day. Back to the story of Andrew Pontius and Archibald Hunter. So at the end of the first year of working the land, September 29th came along and Archie needed to pay a visit to Andrew. Archibald came to Andrew's door with all accounts under one arm and a goose under the other. Archibald explained the goose to Andrew and that eating the goose on September 29th would bring good luck and that they could predict the coming winter weather conditions. Andrew agreed to follow the predictions made by the breast of goose. The story continues that Andrew Pontius's niece, Anna Snyder, was visiting on that day and overheard Archibald Hunter speak about another Michaelmas treat. A cake with a gold ring stirred into the batter, and whomever found it could expect an early marriage. Anna and her aunt prepared the goose and baked the golden ring cake. And what do you know? Anna allegedly got the slice of cake with the ring and soon after married Archibald Hunter. And this is the basis for the celebration of Goose Day in the Juniata River Valley of Mifflin and Juniata counties. Now, how an alleged story from Snyder County became the celebration of Mifflin County, which used to be part of Cumberland and Northumberland County, and Juniata County, which was formerly part of Mifflin County, neither of which were part of Snyder County, which was formerly part of Union County, is absolutely beyond me. And yet, here we are. It's also stated that according to the British folklore, this is the last day to pick blackberries because the bush is cursed due to Lucifer falling into them when cast out of heaven. Officially, in 1973, Mifflin County decided to make Goose Day an official celebration. It was not until 1976 that the Juniata County jumped on the bandwagon. It's claimed that previous to those official recognition years, that Goose Day was already a popular celebration in the Juniata River Valley. Across the entire valley and beyond, there are apparently goose specials at restaurants. Within Mifflin and Juniata counties are a large number of small events as well as a series of vendor festivals. Like I said in the beginning, in Pennsylvania, we celebrate lots of things, usually just to have something to do. But now you too know of this Goose Day celebration that takes place in the real central Pennsylvania. Before you jump into becoming one of those many who celebrate Goose Day, I present you with a caveat emptor statement, meaning the buyer beware that they and they alone are responsible for what they undertake. Although people who celebrate Goose Day make claim to eating a goose granting you the spell of ensured wealth and prosperity for the year, the original belief was both a boon, but it came with a conveniently left out warning by modern practitioners of folklore magics. The original belief was stated as, if you eat roast goose on Michaelmas Day, you will never want money all year. If you don't baste the goose on Michaelmas Day, you will want money all year. Drop a like on this video, and I hope you enjoyed learning something about another one of our fanciful histories in Pennsylvania that time really should have forgotten. If you learned something new or would like to tell us about one of your odd Pennsylvania celebrations, just leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe and be sure to like this video and share it out to people you think might like to learn about old, odd traditions. As always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.